How's it going, everybody? I just took and passed the new CCNP and CCNP security VPN exam, the implementing secure solutions with virtual private networks, the 300-730 exam. I've actually got the score report up on my screen right here. I took it at home, as I have a couple of other exams like Palo Alto and VMware. This is the first Cisco exam I've taken from home. I will be taking additional exams from home as well. Actually, let me adjust my mic so that it's more directed to where I'm at. Hopefully that'll be a little bit cleaner on the audio. But yeah, overall it was a pretty good experience. No different than any other time that I've gone in, except for this time, as I've taken it two other times, Palo Alto and VMware in the past. I made sure to not have anything on my desk at all, pens, pencils, stuff like that, no can of juice or water or anything like that. I just followed the guidelines as closely as I could. Anytime that I had to be directed to do something, the proctor would come on and talk to me. I was expecting that, but this didn't happen on my third go through because there's nothing that they needed to work with me on to be squared away. So I didn't need to remove the pens, didn't need to move anything off my desk that wasn't already there. So it was go through the steps, and then it was like sitting inside of a testing center like I used to a couple years ago. So the exam itself was pretty tricky. I've spent quite a bit of time on the VPN side of the house. For anybody that's watched this channel for any length of time, you know that it's kind of one of the things that I actually gravitate towards. I really like VPNs. They're really cool technology, remote access, site to site, the whole bit. So preparation-wise, I used several different things. So actually it's a funny story. It actually goes back probably three and a half years ago. I was working for a Cisco partner. I had just come back from vacation, my first time to Cisco Lab in 2017, and my manager, boss, the guy that ran the company, multi-time CCIE, he's like, "Hey, have you ever worked with AnyConnect?" I'm like, use it to connect to a network or deploy it? And he goes, either. I go, well, I've used it to connect, but I've never used it I've never deployed it. He goes, oh, okay. Well, guess what? It's never too late or too early to learn. I'm like, okay. So he dropped an AnyConnect project in my lap, which was a blessing in disguise. Obviously, it took me a lot of time to learn how AnyConnect worked and SSL VPN and all that type of stuff. So preparation, I immediately dove into INE's 300-209 CMOS exam, they're the old mobility exam. I'm sure a lot of questions and a lot of topics came over because they're basically the same exam. So I went through that exam, all the videos for SSL VPN, AnyConnect, IKE v2, IKE v1, PKI, the whole bit. That in and of itself, in my opinion, is not enough for you to go through it, but it's a really, really good start, and it covers a lot of the topics that you need to go through. I also went through a lot of lab minutes. Metha is really good at specifically focusing on the lab portion of things. Just checking to see if there's any messages. And all that good stuff. So he was really good about going through, pardon me while I just double check some things real quick. And that really helped. So that was both IKE version 1. He did a deep dive on FlexVPN. If you have not gone through his content, I will link it in the description below. Go through INE's CCNP security stuff. Their CCA security version 4 content for the VPN stuff. Go through all of that. That was really good. You can skip the Easy VPN stuff because that's not covered. Easy VPN is replaced with FlexVPN. So go through all of that because I definitely leverage the high availability portions of IPsec. I watched a lot of INE's videos on that. And Get VPN, DMVPN, FlexVPN, site-to-site VPN, remote access VPN, pretty much anything, any variation of VPN that you could think of, definitely dive into it. There was a lot of troubleshooting on the exam that I wasn't expecting, and that really requires someone. If you're studying for the exam and you want to go knock out the VPN exam, if you are just labbing it up and at a minimum, lab it up, go through whatever videos. I recommend INE and Lab Minutes. Make sure to lab it up, but also make sure to debug the crap out of this stuff too, and intentionally break things. Don't just configure something and go, oh, okay, it works, great, and then get all good feedback. I'm very, very fortunate that I was taught early on to debug both good and bad. So have the debug running. There's no Wireshark outputs, fortunately, and they wouldn't help you anyway, because you're going to see nothing but ISOCAMP and ESP when you do Wireshark captures, because it's all secure connectivity, right? You're trying to encrypt data. You need the debugs on the routers and the ASAs. More routers than ASAs. So definitely debug stuff out so you when you're looking at something, you can correlate it. So if you're going to do, when you're doing your debugs, make sure you're debugging your IKE v1, phase 1 and phase 2, so your ISOCAMP as well as your IPsec. Make sure you're debugging all of that, both good and bad configuration. See exactly what the outputs look like. Make sure you're familiar with them. Same thing with like version 2. Make sure you debug those. Remote access VPN. Make sure that you go through and not only can set up a single user, but you can set up 2 users, and that you understand how the ASA firewall works at the firewall level, not just at the VPN level. So I'm fortunate that I went through the ASA firewall piece before I went through the VPN piece, and it worked out really, really well. Because there were some questions in the exam where if I did not know how the ASA firewall itself worked, then I would have been like, well, I'm not sure. What does that command do? So make sure you understand the firewall component of it and how that process works. I'm trying to think, there was a couple of other stuff that came. Oh, I have not been successful in deploying remote access VPN with any Connect on a CSR 1000V. It just, I can get the config to take, but for whatever reason, it just doesn't work out well. I've gotten it to work to some extent on an iOS router, so the iOS V router, both SSL VPN and AnyConnect, but it's still very, very buggy. So, but make sure that you understand the syntax and how stuff works. If you just read through the SSL VPN config guide on the iOS router, I think that would be sufficient without having to actually go test it. That's just my opinion on that. But when it comes to like site-to-site VPN, Flex VPN, all the different variations, GET, DMVPN, like Flex VPN, make sure that you have not only configured it and verified it in all of its glory. So make sure you can do just not only the hub and spoke, but you can also do the spoke-to-spoke communication, so DMVPN phase 3. If you're going to go Flex VPN, make sure that you understand PKI. Make sure that you can differentiate the differing authentication mechanisms. So pre-shared key on one side, certificate on the other. Make sure you know the difference between the spoke and the server config and the differentiators between those two. But beyond that, that's really the main things that were like standouts to me in the exam. And I actually was surprised at how poorly I scored in remote access VPNs. That just tells me I need to spend more time on it. That's the bottom line with that. And there's nothing wrong with that. I've spent more time on site-to-site VPN. I did really, really well in those areas, and not so great in remote access VPNs. And that's okay. I mean, I passed the exam. I was pleased with my score. I'm not going to post what I actually scored, but I will. If you follow me on LinkedIn, I'll post on there and on Twitter that I passed the test. But beyond that, overall, the exam experience was good. I got my results right away and stuff like that. My goal is I'm in the process right now of recording content for basically the entire CCNP security VPN exam right now. I know I've covered a lot of it in the past, but it's older content, which I'm probably going to take down the older stuff and focus heavily on getting through this. I'm also going to be diving into some other areas. I have a couple of projects coming up that are going to be VMware related, so desktop mobility, deploying Horizon View. So I'm going to be spending some time in Horizon View over the next couple of months. But I'm also going to be studying for I want to dive into firepower more. And now that I had the VPN exam knocked out, that's like one more checkbox, one more thing. There's one more item on my list of things to knock out that's off my list. So I'm going to plan on going through a few months of deep dive on firepower and all that good stuff. So that, ladies and gentlemen, is all I wanted to talk about. If you have any questions, please throw your comments in the comment section below. Until next time, guys, thanks so much for stopping by and watching and hanging out with me, and I'll catch all of you in the next video. Take it easy, guys.